I'd like to speak about an inyan today, which although not directly connected to the parsha, even though Mirz Hashem we will deal with inyanim, certain ideas in Parshat Emor, I'd like to speak about an event, a holiday of some sort, a Yom Kadosh, a holy day that will occur in Mirz Hashem this week, and that is Pesach Sheini. And I think Pesach Sheini is one of those days that happens in the Jewish calendar year, that as the Sefer Ha'aro says, we don't say Tachanun, we eat some matzah, and that's all of our connection to Pesach Sheini. And obviously if there's a day marked on the Jewish calendar, so then on some level, this day, albeit we don't have a sacrifice today, and albeit we don't celebrate technically Pesach Sheini, it still behooves us to try to understand the depths of Pesach Sheini and see how we can be able to access, on whatever level, wherever we are, the message of Pesach Sheini, so we can celebrate Pesach Sheini on a deeper level this year, and not only Pesach Sheini, but the entire week, which Pesach Sheini ushers in, the fifth week of the Sfira, the week of Hod, which has in it on the fifth day, Lag BaOmer, and we also have to understand the dynamics of the week of Hod, and we will touch in on Lag BaOmer as well, the Mirz Hashem. On a technical level, where does Pesach Sheini come from? So we know the Chumash tells us that in source number 3, this is from Rabbi Eliyahu Kito's Sefer Toda'ah, when Israel offered the first Pesach sacrifice in the second year after they left Egypt, there were among them who had become ritually impure through contact with the corpse. There's a machloket in the Mefarshim whether these were the ones who were carrying the bones of Yosef HaTzadik, or perhaps these were the ones who took out Nadav and Avihu's body from the Kodesh Kadoshim. Whatever it is, they were what we call Tamei LaNefesh, and therefore weren't able to bring the Korban Pesach. They weren't able to bring the Paschal sacrifice in the right time. And they approached Moshe and Aaron and they said, and this is the pasuk, my friends, why should we be considered deficient? Right? In the Hebrew nigra, why should we be considered lacking and not offer the sacrifice to God at the appointed time with the rest of the people? They knew they would not be punished for their inability to bring the sacrifice was a result of circumstances beyond their control. However, they were concerned that they would not receive the great reward for bringing the sacrifice, and they had, as we'll see in Mirz Hashem today, a deep desire to be able to fulfill this mitzvah of Korban Pesach. So they go to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, stand here, they daven, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds and says, they're right, and in their schus, in their merit, they merit to have an extra halacha, an extra parsha in the Chumash, given as a result of their request. And this is what the halacha is. Second paragraph in 14. The 14th, the first paragraph in source 13. The Torah states, speak to the children of Israel, saying, any man who is ritually impure because of contact with a corpse, or who is distant, in the second month, on the 14th day in the evening, he shall bring it, and it shall be eaten with matzahs and maror. The 14th of Iyar is not a festival or a holiday. However, the day is one during the period when the Beis Hamikdash stood, was a time of rejoicing for those who had fulfilled the obligation to bring the Pesach offering. Therefore, the date is considered to be somewhat special, and as we noted, Tachanun is not recited. And it's interesting, and one can look in sources 2 and 4a and 4b, that when the Korban Pesach was brought, although Hallel was said during the preparation, just like a regular Korban Pesach, the fascinating thing is they ate this with matzahs and maror, with chametz in their house. So it wasn't the whole full-blown Pesach as we experience it today, but they did have the ability to make up that korban, make up that sacrifice, and be able to bring the Korban Pesach. When I look at this story, a number of questions come to my mind, or come to our mind. The first is, and this is in source number 5, the very obvious question. Why is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that there's going to be a universal time to be able to offer Korban Pesach, If you missed out at the first time, you have a month later on the 14th day of the year, the evening of the 14th day of the year, to make up for it. Why was it after a 30-day period? Would it not have made more sense that any time a person became pure, after a week, 2 weeks, then bring the sacrifice? Let it be a very individual thing, based on every individual, whenever they become pure, because after all, there is chametz in your house and everything is regular. Just for the individual to make a Korban Pesach. Why is it that there was a universal Pesach Sheini after a 30-day period? And the second question, which is what we asked, is how can we tap into this energy of Pesach Sheini? What lessons does it bring to our lives? So, the first approach, and I think we'll see 3 lessons for Pesach Sheini for our lives, that hopefully, Mirz Hashem, we can tap into